All right, let's do this. It was raining, a hard rain, as the young kids say, for like the last hour, and now it is bright and sunny, and everything is almost dry already since it's so hot and humid. Crazy. There's Mr. Frank. All right. All right, all right, all right. A week ago today, it was last Friday. Is you sure on that? I'm not sure that's really a thing, is it? Weird. Ugh. A week from today, it will be next Friday, but I will not be on Twitch. Also, really odd. Only at that point, last Friday was a Friday. Yeah. It's like, remember 2 Fridays ago when it was Friday? Yeah. That one. Mind blown. Exactly. The blown mind. There's Tom Duffy. I didn't know if Tom was going to be able to join us since he has he's training somebody. 2 Fridays ago was last Friday's last Friday. Yeah. Imagine, and we can go probably 6 months of the last of the last of the last of Fridays. You know. There's Nicholas in, also in the house. How's it going, Nick? My goal is to get a little bit of writing in today. Not a lot. But enough to feel like I did something. Annoying person, stop wanting to work all the time. Yeah, buddy, we're getting paid by the hour. I always hated when I had to train people. When I worked for, I'll never forget, I worked for the Clean Communities program in Middletown, New Jersey. And basically what it was we went and we cleaned things and we did all the recycling. So Sunday morning at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., we would have to go to all the various recycling centers in Middletown, which is pretty big. And we'd have to load the full cans onto the back of our work truck and then leave empty barrels. And then we'd have to drive all the way back to the yard, dump all those barrels, and then go back. And we would do that all day. All day was like an 8-hour day of doing that. And we also had basically drunk drivers and kids who were like, I don't know, broke stuff, like all the, basically all the idiots that were sentenced to community service. We would have to take them in our trucks and let them work. The thing I did not like with that is they would come in at like 11 and they would only work till 4. Okay? Now they would come in at 10 and they would work till 3. We would end it at whatever time, 3, 4, whatever. Who gives a shit? It's 30 years ago. Anyway, so they would only work a 5-hour day and they would get credited for 8 hours of community service. I didn't like that. I didn't like it at all. Pepper. Busy, busy, busy over here. Did you get the 7-pot Primo sauce yet? Tom says that hippie just shipped it yesterday. I'll get it. It'll get here tomorrow. Damn hippie shipping. And we would get these kids who would come in. They were like, 18, 19 years old, community service. They spray painted a wall or something stupid. And man, they would be like hustling. And I'm like, you're not getting paid. And if we could probably do this entire job in like 2 hours. Not a problem. We literally from 7 to 10 before we did one stop. And there were 3 trucks. We would get there, we would go all the way to Lincroft. And we'd also take the Navy Road, which is kind of neat because then we would do like 100 miles an hour on the Navy roads. And then we would just sit there and a couple people would smoke. And we would talk about where we just came from. Most of us were young. We still had, hey, I was at the fast lane last night or whatever. I still had the thing on my wrist, I still stunk like I had been in a club all night. And then we'd be like, all right, let's go. There's a little sub shop right here. Let's go get some breakfast. That was every morning. I would get my cinnamon raisin on tuna, or tuna on cinnamon raisin, and we would just basically hang out for like an hour, and we kind of like, oh, let's make sure that everything in the barrel is, and there was bees everywhere. Oh, it was disgusting, that job. And then we would make our first dump at like 9 o'clock, and then we would just hang out at the public works yard till like 9:30. Then we would drive back over to the police station, and we would watch all the assholes coming in, all the drunks and everybody else, and be like, all right, who do you want? You get everybody. Each truck had 2 people, and sometimes there would be like 30 people that had community service, and we would go in and we would say to at the time it was I made my first dump at 9 o'clock. I take mine a lot earlier than that now. My body can't wait. Corporal Vasbury was the cop in charge, and he didn't give two shit. He was great to work for. He was basically like, I'm going to sit in my office all day, and I'm going to get all my paperwork done from that I didn't get from the week, and this is overtime for me. And so basically, or hey, I got a thing at home. I got a barbecue, so you guys good? Yeah, okay. And then basically, like, well, what do we do with all these extra people? He's like, shuffle them all in the back of one of the trucks to Public Works, and they're gonna clean the yard. You know. I hate Asbury. There you go, Nick. Next page, Nicholson. Next effing page. So, anyway, they were all. Most of them were like, I don't care. I don't want to do anything. We were like, good. We don't want to do anything either. This is a job that can take us like 2 hours to do, but we need to spread this over 8 or 9 hours, including lunchtime. And so there was always those idiots who were like grabbing barrels and rolling them out. I mean, calm down. We got like 40 minutes until we put a barrel on the back of this truck. Calm down. That was annoying. It was also annoying having to go to lunch with these people, because a lot of them were kids. Excuse me. A lot of them were kids who had no money, and I'm just like, you should have brought money with you. I'm like, I don't have any money. I'm not buying lunch for you. So they'd be like, well, we're going to Slater's Deli for lunch. Somebody's like, oh, I don't like Slater's Deli. Well, I don't give a shit. You're my slave for the day. Shut the fuck up and go take a walk or something. But you better be back, because when I'm done, when my hour's over and I get in the truck, if you're not on the truck, I'm driving back, and then you don't get credit for the day. There used to be a McDonald's. I guess there still is a McDonald's over there on 36 in Leonardo. And so they would walk from Slater's all the way down to the McDonald's. They're like, can you pick us up at the McDonald's? I'm like, yeah, if I remember. I always picked them up, though. I would get a pork roll sandwich, was like this freaking tall. Wow, some good days. Anyway, the moral of the story is don't... if you're getting paid by the hour, work your time by the hour. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Frank. Mr. Frank found it. Coffee noises. So I was at the coffee place the other day, and like, how hard is it to make coffee? It's like, I don't even remember the coffee noise now. It's like, coffee's filled. Here's your cup of coffee. That whole thing should take about a minute. A minute. It took them 25 minutes to get me coffee the other day. I'm still upset about it. That was that last Friday? I believe that was last Friday. Not the Friday before, not the Friday before the last Friday before the Friday, but last Friday. I used to do that to my girlfriend in high school. Want to hear something funny? I also used to do that to your girlfriend in high school. Crazy. Crazy how things just line up. Oh, I gotta turn the fan on again. Getting a little warm in here. There's a weather alert in effect. I don't know what that means. No idea what that means. What is the new emote? Frank just literally used it. Frank literally just used it. Did you not see it, or you don't know what it means? Which one is it? You didn't see it, or you don't know what it means? Answer me, Nick. There's going to be weather, I guess. I guess they're alerting me that there will be weather. It says weather alert in effect. Like a good 80s rap song. In effect. Good stuff. It popped up right after I asked, so then you don't need to ask then. Appreciate that. Appreciate the concern. I heard Scoville's Tube of Terror. That sounds dirty. I don't know. Want to know what you do with that tube of said terror. So my wife was supposed to last night. She was supposed to go to her mother's and stay through the weekend. Her sister was supposed to fly back to Dallas because they're fixing her house up again. But then her sister called yesterday and said, "Hey, the builder, the contractor I have to meet with, can't meet for a couple weeks, so I'm not going back to Dallas," which is great. So then my wife got to come home last night. And so, but mentally I've already been, I was like all week, I was in a mood yesterday. I was going to come on Twitch and I was like, I'm not even writing today. I'm just in a mood. And even after she told me, hey, I'm not going to my mom's. Ooh, I hear thunder. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to get any writing in. I'm not going to worry about it. So but then last night when she came home, she's like, "What do you want to do for dinner?" I said, "I want to eat meat. I want to eat a lot of meat. That means either going to Sonny's Barbecue or let's go to the Brazilian Steakhouse." We went to the Brazilian Steakhouse. There are 4 of them around us, I believe. There used to only be 1. 13 million Scoville Hest unit peanuts or heat unit peanuts, either way. Are you feeling I am feeling a kind of way, yes. That kind of way is just a specific kind of way. And so I was and I think I was just in a mood last couple of days because Wednesday after Twitch I was angry. I was angry at I don't know why, I was just angry. I was angry at the I was angry at the cats. The cats were fighting. My wife had had turned on the ice maker, and I always turn it off. I only want half the thing ice because when you turn it on, it just keeps filling, and then when you open the freezer, all 40 ice cubes fall. And then that happened to me Wednesday, and all the cats were playing with the ice, and I was screaming at them to stop being cats, basically. And then, but yes, I was like, I haven't left the house in a week. The last time I left the house is probably the coffee thing. So I was like, I gotta get out. So we went to the Brazilian steakhouse. Why aren't there Brazilian cheese houses? I got a good cheese part of this story for you, Nick. I thought of you. So we go, and if you aren't familiar with a Brazilian steakhouse, the what do they call them? Gauchos walk around. I kept calling the sicarios, not to their faces, but I kept saying to my wife, "Hey, is this sicario with the sausage coming over?" And she's like, "Stop calling them that. That's not what they are." It's like you don't know. You don't know what they did before they came here. They could have been killing people for the cartel. You don't know. Anyway, they bring around various meats. So like, oh, would you like some London broil? Would you like some chicken wrapped in bacon? Would you like some sausage? They even have shrimp. Do they wax the steak's butt? Maybe. I don't. I'm not sure. I didn't ask. They even came around with shrimp, and my wife knows that you usually have to ask for shrimp or salmon, but they came around with shrimp, like two big fresh skewers of them. And I was like, as many as you want to give me. And then they're like, you, ma'am? And of course I nodded her, and she takes a bunch, and then I got to take them. So I had probably 20 shrimp on my plate at one point. It was amazing. So we're eating, and we eat all that, and we go up. You don't get a salad or anything. They do have really good mushrooms. So I get a little scoop of mushrooms and a little scoop of rice, and that's pretty much it for that. And then we eat a lot of meat, and they come around 100 times with a dozen different kinds of skewered meat. Then our waiter says, "Oh, so anything? Are you looking for anything else?" And we were like, "I'm done." And she's like, "I'm done. Would you look for anything else?" And my wife says, "Do you guys still do the pineapple?" He says, "Yeah, let's go. I'll have somebody bring out." So the guy comes out with pineapple. And the pineapple's on the skewers, very sweet. Cut the pineapple. My wife eats some pineapple. And then the waiter says, even though we had already paid and we were getting ready to leave, "Have you had cheese with honey?" And I said, "Cheese with honey? No. That sounds delightful." So they brought out cheese with honey. So it's little squares of cheese. I don't know what kind of cheese it is. And they're grilled. So it's browned on all of the various sides. Okay? And then they put 4 to 6 on your plate, and then they drizzle it with an abundance of honey on top. And the cheese is gooey inside and warm. Then the honey is nice and honey temperature. But I don't know if cheese is right. I don't know what it was, because it was because you taste a lot of the honey and the char of it. But I don't know what it was like. It was like a white cheese. I don't know, provolone. I don't know what it was. But it was pretty good. It was different. I'd never ever. I can honestly say I'd never had. I've had a lot of things in my mouth over the years. That was not a flavor I'd ever had in my mouth. But it was very good. It was a good way to end the. It was a good way to end the night. Plus, I got to people watch around me, which I always love. So this big group comes in. There's 12 people. And the dad sits at the front. He's the dad. He sits at the front of the table, kind of like that asshole. Whenever I have a thing, he thinks he's the head of my table. It comes in. So dad sits at the head of the table, and he's got his wife, big blonde, his other daughter, who's also a big blonde, and then I'm going to guess his other daughter, who is a brunette, and she's super skinny. And she's wearing this super tight dress, and she's got a big ass. And her boyfriend, who's got his hand around her waist, and he's, yeah, I mean, I was like a softball for you, Mr. Frank. He's got his hand, 2 fingers on her ass cheek and the other on her thigh on her side. And dad keeps, as they're waiting, putting stuff down, the dad keeps staring over there. And he's also got his buddy. I don't know if it's his brother, I don't know who it is, but the two of them are kind of both watching. And then, and the guy with the daughter, it was this typical 20-something, and he had a big chain around his neck, and he kind of looked like Patrick Mahomes, that kind of douchebag. And so then he escorts his girlfriend and they make a plate together of salad and stuff, and then they get back, and then he's basically he was just all over her, and then at one point she takes an olive or something and she feeds the boyfriend, and the father smacks his hand on the table, and he's just shaking his head, and he's saying something. I'm sure he's like, don't do that, and like everybody else at the table is just staring like, what the fuck is going on? Although that was funny. I was like, there at some point the chicharrones are going to bring this guy outside and shoot him in the head, because this guy is like, you don't do that in front of somebody's dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit don't happen. Anytime I've gone out with either of my daughters, and they had a guy there, they knew right away, if you did shit like that, if you were putting your arm around touching my daughter's ass, I will fucking drag you outside and beat you to death. They toss her, Mr. Frank. I don't know. I wasn't paying that much attention, but it was just interesting because it was just funny, and I got to watch this dad just getting more and more pissed the whole time. I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Like, you're doing that in front of her parents. I can only imagine what you're doing when the parents aren't around. You're definitely yanking that dress up and slipping that thong off. She's definitely wearing a thong. Ugh. Interesting. We had people next to us, a family next to us. Fat wife, fat husband, and little asshole kid who was probably like 6 years old. And he had his tablet out playing some cartoon at fucking full blast. And mom and dad are both on their phones. And then the kid is getting up. He's keeps turning it up. And he's just being annoying. And I'm thinking, if you pay attention to your fucking kid, he won't be annoying. He's just looking for attention. But you two assholes are too busy being on your phone. That drives me nuts. When you're at a restaurant and that's $200 with the tip and everything. So for them it's probably $250, and and you have your babysitter there, your tablet with this kid. I don't know. I'm an old man, but it's still annoying. It's annoying, and then it's annoying that neither of you are talking. You're both on your phone. So drove me nuts, I tell you. My goal is to finish this chapter. I don't know if it's going to happen. We're already halfway in. Anybody doing anything exciting this weekend? So my wife is home now. I thought I was just going to write all weekend. I'm hoping Tom kicks a chapter or two back my way so we can keep that moving, because I need to get some writing in. Tomorrow she's like, I've still got to go to my mom's and do a couple things. I'm like, you know what? Fine. Not a problem. She's also moving her office at the end of the month, even though we'll be in Nashville at that point. So we went, after the Brazilian steakhouse, we went to her office. She showed me it was all packed up and everything, but she's like, do you want any of this crap? Tons of envelopes, packing envelopes and boxes and stuff. I'm like, yeah, give me all of this stuff. She also had some coffee cups, and I said, well, I'll take these coffee cups. She's like, you have more than enough coffee cups. There's not another coffee cup allowed in my house. All right. I won't take the coffee cups then. I didn't want them. I just said it. So she's going to go and go to her mom's tomorrow at some point. And then Sunday maybe we'll go see my mom. Who can say? But in the meantime, I want to get some writing in. Because I'm not going to get any writing in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday next week. So my goal is to get as much in as possible and keep my average up. Does your shirt only say cold brew? No, it says cold brew No, actually, it just says cold brew. Just says cold brew. Why? What does your shirt say? I bet you your shirt doesn't say cold brew. I'll bet you. Unless you write it, in pencil on the sleeve. Although I think you have a cold brew tattoo in the same spot that my shirt says cold brew, so that could be something. And ironically, I'm not drinking cold brew. Weird. Plant Food Company. Oh yeah, plant food is fucking delicious. Plant food is just amazing. Everybody's like, "What kind of food do you eat?" And I'm like, "Plant food, but only with company. You never eat plant food alone. That's kind of depressing." And now it's too cold. Your work does. Do you have an official uniform for work? Do you have you gotta wear like Dickies and stuff? Do you have like specific boots you have to wear? Do you have to wear like boots so you don't get stuff in your socks? Do they have a hat? Do you get to wear a hat? Are there specific work gloves you get to wear? Is it a button-down shirt, or did they just give you a couple of t-shirts? Is it like drab gray, or like can you have your own colors? Like, hey, it's Friday, it's tie-dye Friday. We're one of those uniform companies. So do you do they come in and do they wash all your uniforms for you? You got to trade in uniforms. I've worked for a couple of places that they did that, and then they cleaned our uniforms, which was always a lot of fun. And then after you've been there for like 3-4 years, there was what do you call it? Then there was like you start getting like some of the older pants or the older shirts, like really crazy and faded, and you're like, well, work's gotta buy me some new clothes, and then you just wear all the new clothes until they're all gross and faded. Tom says, I'm depressed. I'm going to binge eat this giant bowl of salad and watch TV. That will probably make you more depressed. Probably don't eat a giant bowl of salad. They pick up my dirty drawers once a week. Nice. That's the way to do it, you know what I'm saying? Then you don't have to go home and wash your stuff. As long as you have enough, though. I worked for Bradco Roofing Supply Company for a couple of years in the early 90s. I think they're still around. I see their trucks still. And when I first started, they gave you 2 shirts and 2 pairs of pants. And then they would come like every week. So like you had to make that last. And like we weren't dealing in fertilizer and stuff, but we were in a warehouse a lot of the time. I was in their mail department. And so you got to walk to the other buildings. It was hot or it was snowing, whatever. And you get dirty. Warehouses are disgusting. But I remember a guy, the guy Ed who was running it. I worked with him and another guy, and they fired the other guy, who was at the time was my size. I was actually a lot skinnier 30 years ago, which is weird to say or to believe. But I remember when his stuff came back, they had already fired him, and he had turned in his clothes, and they were my size. And I said to Ed, don't, what are you going to do with these? So yeah, we just stick them in a cabinet somewhere. I'm like, well, no, I want them. He's like, well, they're dirty. I said, we give them to the laundry people, and they clean them. So then when the new stuff, the guy's 2 shirts and 2 pants came in, I took those. And then I go through and I'm like, Ed, there's like 40 pairs of pants and shirts in here. He's like, yeah, they just tell me to just hang on to them. I'm supposed to when new people come in. And I'm like, how often do we get new? There's 2 of us. So I had at one point I had 15 shirts, 15 pairs of pants. It was great. It was great. Like I felt rich. I would just wear a pair of pants and then forget. Yeah, the name. So the name was stitched over the thing. First name. So like you would walk around and everybody in the office would be like, "You're not Barry. Barry was fired for grabbing the secretary's boob 3 years ago. You're not Barry." And I remember there was like a Lily or a Lilla, something like there was like a chick. I guess she was a bigger girl. And I had her shirt, and then everybody would laugh. You're not. And then they would make uh, uh, jokes about my genre, my gender, my gender. And back in like '92, you could do that. You were allowed to just basically call me Miss and stuff. That's so funny because you're wearing a girl's, name on your thing. Blah blah blah. Yeah, good times. Ed was small though, so I never when Ed quit, I never got to wear his clothes. Although I used to do this thing, I used to do all the hiring then because Ed. I was in Philadelphia. I was in one of their warehouses in Philadelphia, going through old files, and this is the '90s, so everything is paper. Everyone was very handsy back then. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like there's like 4 or 5 guys who have been fired over the years for basically like banging a secretary or hitting on one of the married chicks, and there was a lot of really hot chicks there in the office. But I was in Philadelphia up in their attic warehouse, the warehouse attic, throwing stuff out of the window into a dumpster when somebody came up and was like, "Hey, you got to go back. You got to call the office." And I'm like, "All right," which was in Avenel in Rahway area. And I call in. I said, "What's the matter?" He goes, "Oh, I just quit." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because they won't give me a raise. And I've been here for like 15 years, and they said there's no raise. I'm at the top of what I can do." So like, so you quit? He's probably making good money, I would imagine. He's like, "Yeah, now you got to come back." All right. So now I had to get in the car. I don't forget because I was like, "All right, I'll be back in a little bit." There's a lot of traffic. And then I left and I drove to a strip club, which is right down the block because they were in the industrial area. And I went in and hung out in the strip club for about half an hour and had a couple of drinks, spent a couple of dollars. And then I drove to the gas station. I did not fill up when we were in New Jersey because I knew what I was doing. In Philly, when you went to I think it was Shell or Gulf, one of the gas stations, if you filled up, then they gave you a pack of baseball cards, Philadelphia Phillies baseball cards. And so I filled up the car on their card, and then I went inside and I said, "Hey, I filled up, but I filled up like 10 times. I keep forgetting to get my cards." And the lady just gave me like a stack of them. She's like, "Nobody even takes these." Gave me a stack of cards. I was very happy. Then I went back, and then I was doing the hiring. Even though I was still technically a temp at that point, nobody there could be bothered. Like, "Oh, you're the guy who walks around with a cart and hands mail out." We don't care. We'll just have them send somebody else. And then so they would send like 2 or 3 people at a time. And I would always hire. There was never any chicks. I was always like, I'm going to hire some hot woman, but that never happened. And but I always try to hire guys that were my size or bigger if possible. That way I can have their clothes when they eventually fire them. Good times. I liked that job, and then suddenly they were just like, it was like a week before Christmas, and they were like, "Yeah, we're just gonna go through the temp agency for this because it was like '93, '94, something like that." They were like, "Yeah, we can now do we now have computers doing a lot of this stuff, so we're basically gonna hire a temp who comes around for like 3 hours a day, or just give it to one of the people in the office who's going to pass around mail. Because we don't need you to do any of the reports. We don't need you to do any of the other printing stuff." They used to have these giant, like a room of giant machines, and you'd have that computer paper with the perforated on either side, and you would have to stick it in the machine, and then you'd have to run it, and it would spit out like 1,000 sheets, and then you'd have to do it again, and then you'd have to take all those sheets and you have to rip the side things off, and you'd have to put them, stacks of them, in whatever branch it was. It was like 40 different branches all over the country. And you have to stick them in an envelope, and then you'd have to print out an envelope for that and put it in the mail. It was just a big fucking mess. It was like once a month at the end of the month you worked, we had overtime because you were there for like 20 something hours straight, which was not fun. Even if it was like on a Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, didn't matter. You're like, it's a Sunday, but it's, tomorrow's the 1st, so you got to be here to print all this stuff out, because on the 1st all these envelopes have to go out in the mail, and then you'd have to take, you fill the back of the station wagon. It was a station wagon. Fill the back of the station wagon with all of these shipping cartons and stuff, and then you have to drive to the Avenel post office, which was in the ghetto, but then everything up there is the ghetto, and drop them all off. Good times, good times. They were basically like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. Okay, whatever. Like 20 something, I'll get another job. I'll get another great job, which I never did. I mean, the money was crap. It was like probably like $8, $9 an hour back then. The good part was I got to in the morning on my way to work. I got to stop at the bakery, and they would have like 3 dozen donuts and 3 dozen bagels and all the cream cheese, all the other stuff, and in a box for me. And I would go in, and I had the company credit card. I would pay for everything every morning, bring it to work, lay it all out, and the big boss would always say, okay, make sure before you lay it, make sure you grab a couple of bagels or something for yourself, And I would grab like 5 bagels and a tub of cream cheese and bring it down to the mailroom, and we would feast. And then in the afternoons, there was a sign-up sheet. Everybody would sign up for lunch, and like certain days, like Friday was always pizza. So Friday, depending on how many people signed up, I would have to order X number of pizzas, and he would put suggestions on the sheet, and then the payroll lady would use the sheet to subtract money from you, and I would go and I would order pizza, and you have to go pick up the pizza. Or there was Taco Bell. I'd have Taco Bell one day, and you'd have to they would say, okay, what next week? What are we eating? And you'd have like we're McDonald's, and it's just going to be the #1 meal, and it was it was like $5 or something a day, whatever it was. So I'd have to figure out on the different places. Like, oh, we're doing Chinese food, okay, but we got to do, we're just doing these 3 specials because that's the only thing that's $5 and under, or whatever amount it was. But then the boss would always say, hey, order something. Make sure you order something for yourself and your other guy, because you guys are out there getting it, and I have no problem. We're not going to don't even put your name on the sheet. So, okay, I got to order 10 things, then I'm just going to go and order a bunch of stuff for myself. So I ate well there. I ate well. We also had a project in the secondary warehouse. They wanted us to put shelves up. And they were like, listen, you can't, during the day you guys are busy doing stuff. So can you stay after work, and can you come in on weekends? And the other guy, Artie, who I had hired because he was my size, who's a fucking lunatic. Me and Artie we're like, all right, we'll come in Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and we'll work like 10-hour days, both days. We would work for like 4 hours. But again, we would just put shelves up like crazy. Be like, okay, how long do you think it takes us to put up a shelf? Oh, this is going to take us like a half an hour to put up these shelves. They were very long industrial shelves. And you had to have 2 guys holding the thing, and you had to put rivets in and all this other crap. All right, so we can do 20 of these a day. And there was like, I don't know, 500 of them or something ridiculous like that. So we're going to do the outside ones first and nail them against the wall. So let's see if we can do 20. Yeah, you always hire a guy named Artie, yeah. We're going to do like 20 of these every Saturday and every Sunday and make it seem like we worked 10 hours. And we were down to like 3-4 hours. I mean, we were just like, all right, just line them up, bang, 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 bang. And then you come behind me and you just, basically with the air gun and just shove bolts in these things. And we did it for like 6 months or something. We worked it. In fact, I remember like the last 2 weeks of that, we were done with with everything. And we were like, well, we gotta go through and again and make sure everything is there. Like, yeah. So we did like 2 extra weekends where we literally just went and sat in the break room for like 3 or 4 hours, and me and Artie just talked. Then we left there. He used to work at the quarry in North Jersey. So I remember we left one day and we drove to the quarry so he could show me around the quarry. Yeah. Artie, that's one of those guys I always wonder what happened to him. Him and his wife had a baby. He had a drinking problem. And she said, if we have a baby, you got to stop drinking. He said, of course. And then the baby was like maybe 3-4 months old. And then his wife had to go out and was late at work or something where Artie had to stay home with the baby. And she was like, I'll be a couple of hours. And then it was like 3 hours had gone by and he was upset. So he literally left, the baby was in her crib. He left their apartment and went to the bar. And he drank sat there for like 2 hours and got drunk. And then when he finally came home, his wife was home. And for some reason, she was upset that he left the baby alone for like 4 or 5 hours. I was like, yeah, Artie, you could have gone to jail for that. That was really not a good thing. He also had the hots for this woman in the office who was like, Artie was probably at the time, I was like 22, 23. Artie was probably like 35. And this chick was maybe 20 that worked just for the summer. She probably wasn't even 20. But she was she had humongous natural boobs. And he would just stare at her like wiping drool off of his face. I'm like, dude, you're gonna get in trouble. You're gonna get me in trouble. Yeah. I also work with a guy, I think I told this story, that when he came in, he had Band-Aids over all of his fingers. Like, right all across his fingers. It's like, dude, why do you have Band-Aids every day? Yeah, he's fire kind of, yeah. Yeah, he didn't last that long. He actually came to, if I remember correctly, he came to work drunk. He had been out all night. And he was fighting with his wife, and he slept in his car. And he was like sitting in the parking lot, and when somebody came in and said, "Hey, the mail guy is out there in his parking lot, and I think there's like a bottle of vodka or something on his front seat with him," and he had been out there all night drinking, and then he tried to come to work, and then they pulled him in the office, and he was gone, and then I ended up getting his pants and his shirts. We had this other guy. He had his fingers all had Band-Aids on them, and he was a young kid too. He was like maybe like 18, 19, and he actually lived kind of near where he lived in Hazlitt. And I said, "Why do you always have Band-Aids? I've noticed like every day you come in, you have Band-Aids." He says, "All right, I'm going to show you this, but you can't tell anybody." I was like, "Okay." He took one off, and there was a swastika tattoo on his finger. He had gotten all 5 fingers on each hand with swastikas. And I'm like, so you're like a Nazi or something? And he's like, no, I was just really drunk. I was like 16 and my buddy did it. We thought it would be funny. I was like, yeah, that's really not funny. And he's like, yeah, so now I got to cover them all the time because I can't go out in public. People want to fight me for some reason. I'm like, well, I know the reason. And then and then what's weird is like maybe he only lasted like maybe 2 months, and I don't even think that anybody ever found out about the swastika thing. I think he was just basically like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. And then like maybe 2 years later, I was buying baseball cards a lot, and then some dude had put in like the Asbury Park Press or something in Hazlitt that they were selling their 92 Tops collection, whatever it was, and I was like, did you call him Morton Downey Jr. after that? Yeah. And then I know, but I believe it was around that time where I actually went to a taping of Morton Downey Jr. So it's kind of odd. So I go to this dude's house to buy baseball cards, and it ends up he's a male stripper, and he had like super long hair, and he's wearing like little weird shorts, and I'm like, dude, I just want baseball cards. Like I don't want to lap dance. And then I was bringing all the cards out, putting them in my car. I think I was married the first marriage at that point, maybe, and or maybe between marriages. Anyway, then a car pulls up, and it's this dude with the swastikas on his fingers, and he's that the stripper's roommate, and he was working at like I don't know, like Denny's or what's the place with you throw the peanuts on the ground? That place. Like he was working some shitty restaurant in Hazlitt somewhere. I was like, hey, how you been? And I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. He's like, you still have that job? And I was like, yeah. And I think it was like right after, maybe a couple weeks later, they let me go. It was also snowing. I'll never forget because we had one car. So I was with the first wife. I don't even know if we were married then. And I had to wait for her to come pick me up, and of course, with all the snow and everything, driving. We were living in Atlantic Highlands in the trailer park then, classy, and so it took her like an extra 45 minutes to come get me. So ground round, thank you. Yep, he worked at ground round, and then so they fired me basically. It's like 5 o'clock. Hey, we don't need you anymore. I'm basically still a temp at that point, so there's no severance. There's nothing. There's basically like, hey, don't come back on Monday. We don't need you, kind of thing. And then I went outside because I was like, all right, fine. I was pissed off. I go outside, figuring she'd be out there, and it took her like 45 minutes. So I had to stand out in the snow, freezing my ass off, waiting for her to show up. And I'm like, fuck you been? She was a lot of traffic. I'm like, oh, great. Okay, well, anyway, I need to go find a new job now. I watched The Untold on Air McNair. I watched that one. That was a good one. I'm watching there's a bunch of 30 for 30s on that have come in. I think there's 5 new 30 for 30s that got released or are getting released. So I'm looking forward to those. I don't even care what they're about. I like watching those. The swastika guy and the male stripper would make an excellent duo on a crime novel. You know what? That ain't a lie. I hope Tom. I hope you're still paying attention. When you come up with the next trilogy we're going to write, keep them two in mind. Crazy world we live in, right? Ground round. As a kid, I loved that place because we never got to go there all that often. But then you realize it was really dark and dirty. They played the same 4 cartoons over and over. Shit all over the floor. You couldn't do that a place like that today. Health inspector would close that shit down in a heartbeat. But they did play, but they didn't play good cartoons. They played like old shitty black and white cartoons that were, I'm guessing back then, were like public domain. Like I don't remember ever going in there and going, "Oh, Bugs Bunny is on." Like oh, Calamity Moose. Oh, we get to watch the same episode of Calamity Moose and Gusto. Those are I'm just making up names. On a projector against the wall. So every 5 seconds somebody was walking through the line, and then you wouldn't see a cartoon, and then it would be pitch black in the room. Because it was like, I don't remember there being any lights. It's silent movies too. Yeah, Oh, good. Here's another Buster Keaton. I would imagine at one point that was like a huge chain. You know what I'm saying? Like that was Popeye with Alice the Goon. It was literally like, I remember if you were in there for more than like 15 minutes, you're like, we just saw this one. Like as a kid, you're like, oh my god, we're gonna watch cartoons. Well, you know, it's you can only watch cartoons in the morning, Saturday morning. So it's a Tuesday night, and we're watching cartoons. Oh, but we're watching the same. We're watching the same three cartoons. Watching the same three cartoons, and people are throwing shit on the ground. Tom Duffy's been working. Chapter done. That's music to my ears. These ears. All right, good. So that's yeah. So that's a bunch of stories of my past. I mean, all these could make a great documentary. Hopefully, someday they'll do a 30 for 30 about me. I think that would be really nice. Do we have any filmmakers in the audience who can film this? Any of these stories? I'm thinking we do animation. You know what I'm saying? So you can have the guy with the swastikas tattoos on his fingers. I think he would make a great cartoon version of him. And then the male stripper guy. Grinding. Exactly. All good stuff. All right, hopefully everybody has a great weekend. I doubt I'm going to be on this weekend. I mean, I might pop in, but I doubt it. I'm going to doubt it right now. I'm a doubting Thomas. My name is not Thomas, but you know what I'm saying. Hopefully everybody has a good time. Tonight we're making cheeseburgers on the grill. Looking forward to that. For some reason, just love a good cheeseburger. Yeah, I don't like the nugs thing. I'm not a fan of that, obviously. That's just a dumb thing to say. Now you ruined my weekend, Frank. Thanks. Now I'm just gonna be angry all weekend about that. All right, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with me. Appreciate it. Have a great Friday. I think this was a positive Friday, right? I didn't bitch too much about anything. I just told some stories. Bye, Nick. You have a great weekend. You slap that girlfriend on the ass for me. You know what I'm saying? Really hard. Be like, that's from Mondo. And she'll be like giggly and stuff. Because, you know, she gets giggly when I slap her on the ass. All right, everybody. You have a great weekend. Oh, I know you will.